G'day everyone, welcome to Formulating Knowledge Questions, or KQs. So what's a knowledge question? Essentially, they are questions that try to uncover how humans figure stuff out. Let's get into some examples. So one of the key first steps is to make sure that we're not making a subject-specific question. We want to make sure that our questions are about the construction or the communication of knowledge. So here's an example of a subject-specific question. How does Atwood express opinions in her poetry? So we're very firmly in the literature subject area. Now something that's getting better, we're moving it towards the knowledge question area. Do poets express knowledge in their work? And so now we're starting to use some theory of knowledge terminology, knowledge. So we're moving in the right direction, but we're still a bit too focused here in the subject area. So we want to try and move towards the areas of knowledge and ways of knowing as the foundation for our question. So this is a better knowledge question. Does art transmit knowledge? So now we're talking about how knowledge is constructed, and in this case, how knowledge is communicated or transmitted, as is the wording here. So one thing is to make sure that we're using ToK, or theory of knowledge terminology, the vocabulary of ToK, to form our knowledge questions. So what is ToK terminology? That's the language that includes ways of knowing, areas of knowing. It's also vocabulary and terminology that focuses on the language of analysis and evaluation. And so here are some examples. We've got knowledge, very ToK, and now we're talking about evaluation and analysis. We've got justification, interpretation, judgment, evidence, theory, and so on here. So here are some examples of questions using the terminology of ToK. So are claims in the human sciences limited by the language they use? So a claim is ToK terminology. Human sciences, we've got an area of knowledge. Limited is a very nice question word for ToK, and language is also in ToK. How does language shape interpretations of knowledge? Again, we've got language, interpretations, and knowledge. Does all knowledge require a rational basis? So we've got knowledge and rational basis. So rational basis referring to the way of knowing. Is some degree of unjustified belief necessary in each AOK, or area of knowledge? So we're talking about justified true belief versus an unjustified belief. And again, we're referring to the areas of knowledge here. So these are questions that are good knowledge questions because they're using those ToK terms. So that's not the only thing that makes a good ToK knowledge question. The goal of a knowledge question is to generate quality inquiry. So that means that we have a lot of material that we can explore. There are a lot of possible answers to the questions. And so here are some examples that we could look at. So the first one here, can we trust emotions? Next one, when can we trust emotions? Should we trust emotions? And to what extent should we trust emotions? Now, some of these questions are better than others. They're all knowledge questions, but some of them lend themselves to a really quality inquiry better than others. So let's take a look at the answers here, or at least the answers that I've come up with. So, can we trust emotions? So this is a closed question. It requires a yes-no response, and so it's a weaker knowledge question because it doesn't allow for a full inquiry around this, the issues of trust and the way of knowing of emotions. So moving on, when can we trust emotions? This is getting better. It's a 5W question. That means when, what type questions, where questions, who. Easy to discuss. Factual answers. So we can get into factual and we can limit ourselves in these types of questions. They're still okay, but it's a bit harder to discuss how knowledge is constructed when we're dealing with these questions. So the next step is, should we trust emotions? So this is lending itself to a deeper inquiry because they're open, and there's the implication of judgment here. If you're asking this question, you're inviting the reader to follow you on that exploration of making a judgment about whether or not, in this case, we can trust emotions. And then the final step, to what extent should we trust emotions? So this is, again, another stronger knowledge question. The to what extent question starter is useful and strong because that leads to open-ended inquiry and discussion, but we also have to draw conclusions. And it also means we have to consider the method of evaluation. So there's a lot of opportunity for exploration, not just in the answer, but in how we come up with the answer. So other question starters that tend to lead us towards strong knowledge questions. The first one here is, in what ways? So this invites the audience to compare and contrast how knowledge is built. Now you notice I'm writing invites the audience to. Your job in the ToK presentation or essay is to invite the reader or the audience along with you as you explore the knowledge questions and unpack your claims and also the counterclaims there as well. So the next question there is, how far? This is a nice question starter because it invites us to consider the limitations or the limits of knowledge and its construction. So we're thinking about, well, what is that limit? What's the boundary of how far we can take some of these ideas and concepts? All right, that's it for our starter on developing knowledge questions. And if you've got any questions, please let me know. Thank you.